Welcome. Good morning. This is the 2012 311 Synergy Group Spring Meeting Preview. I'm Rose Minton of Heights Consulting, and I provide the consulting support for the 311 Synergy Group. Our speakers today are going to give you a preview of the meeting that is coming up in April and May, and we'll talk a little bit more about that meeting in just a second. They're giving you a preview and also some information that you can take away today from this little brief webinar and use as leaders when you go back to your workplace. So our speakers are Esther Tenenbaum from the City of Albuquerque. She implemented the 311 Customer Service Center in Albuquerque, and she's currently the Assistant Vice Chair of our 311 Synergy Group. We also have Frank Carmody of the City of Houston. Houston has had 311 for a long time, and they're the fourth largest city in the U.S. Frank has recently joined the 311 Center as the Assistant Director of Operations. We also have Don Stickney. He implemented the Minneapolis 311, and he's the current chairperson of our 311 Synergy Group. Eva Liggins was the previous director of the Dallas 311 Customer Service Center, and for 2 years she was the chairperson of our 311 Synergy Group. Corey Fleming is our research partner from ICMA. Andy Maimoni from the City and County of San Francisco is their technology manager. He's the vice chair of our 311 Synergy Group and our incoming chairperson. And a very special welcome to our sponsors. We have Mike Antash of Oracle, Todd Winkle of AT&T, and Steve Carter of Lagan Kana. I'm going to talk a little bit about the 311 Synergy Group and what it is. It's an industry group. It's networking, information sharing. It's fun. We're planning a very special meeting in Grapevine, Texas at the Gaylord Texan Resort and Convention Center. And it will be starting at noon on April 29th and go through end of day on May 1st, where we'll roll right into the CS Week conference. If you'd like to take a look at the meeting agenda, it is posted through this link, and we'll also have information about that at the 311 Synergy Group on LinkedIn. We invite you to join that 311 Synergy Group on LinkedIn. It's where we do our primary communication, and it's also where we will be posting this webinar, both the slides and the audio version. And in addition, we'll be posting the slides and the audio version on the 311 Synergy Group website at CS Week. So our speakers today are going to have 5 minutes to speak and present some useful information for you and entice you to join us at our meeting in April and May. If you have questions, if you'll type those in on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, we'll get to as many questions as possible at the end of this presentation. So I'm going to pass this over to Esther now from the City of Albuquerque.
Thank you so much, Rose, and welcome to everybody. I have to just really quickly tell you my first experience with this group was awesome, and I've been with them ever since. So if you're contemplating this group, it is definitely a great networking session. I hope to see you at our conference, and I want to talk a little bit about stress. So I'm not sure how many of you have stress in your life. I'm thinking some of you might. Many of our life events have emotional impact. I'm sorry, one moment. Have emotional impact and activate the stress response in our bodies and minds. And for some reason, we think that our stress is all because of our job. We often don't realize, though, that it's the event itself doesn't cause stress. It's our reaction to it. So who's in charge of us? We're in charge of us. We're in charge of our attitude and how we choose to respond. The purpose of this segment is to become more aware of your own response patterns and learn ways to deal with stress in your lives, which, again, we believe all comes from work. The reason we need to manage stress is because stress can have many negative impacts on our bodies, minds, behaviors, and even relationships with others, coworkers, family members, friends. It can have effect on our cognitive abilities, our memory problems. How many times do you think, where was I going when I walked in that room? What was I going to do? That might be that you can't remember that because of stress. Poor concentration, you can't seem to focus on things. That or out of sorts feeling, and we all have those. There are also some emotional effects. Worrying too much or worrying, which is a great misuse of your imagination, but we'll talk about that at the conference, and then depression. A lot of us don't realize how it affects us and puts us into a form of depression, or maybe puts us on high anxiety. We're very edgy. So there's also some behavior effects, and that is that a lot of us can't sleep, and we don't know why. We think it's because we drank too much caffeine or we were too stimulated before we went to bed, when really maybe stress might be the problem. It does also affect how much we choose to eat of good or bad foods, or drink of good or bad type of liquids. It has a lot of social effects too, because a lot of times when we're stressed beyond a manageable amount, we start isolating ourselves. We don't want to be around people. We just don't want to interact. And people notice the change in us. We become very irritated with others. Ever have people that just get under your skin? Again, we have the ability to choose how we behave. We can choose our own attitude. So I hope to see you there. We'll discuss new ways to cope and deal with stress, and we'll learn why we think stress always happens because of our jobs. And now I'll turn it over to Frank with the City of Houston.
This is Frank with the City of Houston. We just recently completed implementation of a new customer relations management software, and some aspects went well, as you might expect, and some went not so well, as you might expect. And of course, obviously, we want to sustain those that went well, and we want to improve those that didn't go so well. This slide just sort of gives you some background information on our 311 operation. We have 49 agents. We used to have 73, so that gives you some idea. I'm sure a lot of people are going through the same thing where we're downsizing, and we're relying on technology to some extent to help us through that downsizing. We also have 600 users within the departments who are linked into our system and use it to both put in service requests and to receive service requests, and also to get information. We have about 2.1 million citizen contacts annually, and we're trying to, as much as we can, move that from phone-based, which we were about 99% phone-based, to some additional channels, and we're using our new customer relations management system, the Lagan system, to enable us to do that. We have about 340 different service requests and about 2,600 frequently asked questions in our system. And if you look at the pie chart on the left, the types of calls we get mostly are for information, so 74% for information, and then only 11% for service requests. The pie chart on the right shows the different customers that we serve, and we're serving primarily courts. Obviously, it's 39%. Most of those that come in for courts are going to be questions. Very few of those are going to be service requests. Then solid waste and public works. Solid waste is kind of a mix, service requests and information. Public works is mostly service requests, and as is neighborhood protection. This is a rather busy slide. I'll orient you as best I can, but it shows you what our system looks like and also where we want to go with it. You notice on the left-hand side you've got the citizen, and the citizen has different ways of getting into our system. Right now, like I said, it's mostly telephonic. We do receive emails, and that's increased considerably over the past 6 months because we advertise it. And also we're getting a whole lot more web traffic. Our website was not very user-friendly. We made it a lot more user-friendly, and so because of that, we're getting a lot more service requests over or through the website. And we're also getting a lot more information hits on the website. The next step is to implement smartphone technology, which will enable citizens to submit service requests via smartphone from wherever they happen to be. This is also kind of a busy slide, but if you look at this is our implementation timeline, and really the top two ones, the customer relations management upgrade and the telephony system are what we're really talking about today. We had a lot of other systems that we're implementing at the same time, so you can see the operational tempo is fairly high. We went live with this on November 9th, And since then, we've been continuing to train some users, stabilizing the system, and fine-tuning the system. All right, one of the things I would do the next time is to find a champion in each one of the different departments. Everybody's aware that when you're going to have an implementation like this, you're going to be changing the world for some folks, particularly like I think about in 311, we've had people who were on the same system for 10 years. They could just about close their eyes and navigate through it. So we're moving some cheese, and whenever that happens, you're going to have some people that need to have their hands held as they go through. For the most part, our implementations went well throughout the different departments, but we had one business network in particular that I'd say it was a failure. And I looked back at that and I said, well, what's the difference between the ones where it worked well and the ones where it was a failure? And I looked at my own 311 operation. I said, well, we all have those kind of people who are going to have problems adjusting to change. So that doesn't differentiate between the ones where it was successful and the one where it wasn't. But when I looked at it, I said, and it really stood out at me, is then the one where it didn't go well, there wasn't a real champion of the change. There wasn't anyone there who was a good problem solver with a good attitude and had leadership skills to drive acceptance and to really take ownership of it. And, you know, we had gone through all the business readiness steps and communicated, and we went through user acceptance testing and communicated again, but all that is going to fall apart if you don't have a champion in each one of these different business units that's going to take ownership and understands that he or she has to actually drive it. I looked at it on my own floor, and what I found is that we had those champions in our supervisors who accepted the fact that this is a new system. It's going to be we're going to have certain problems with it, like you're going to have with any system. There's going to be some stress involved, going back to the first presentation, but at some point someone has to accept the fact and take ownership and drive it. So what I would do next time is make sure that we have not just a super user, but we have someone with the right attitude who will accept responsibility for making sure that it happens in his or her business unit. The one thing that I'm really glad I did, and this actually happened serendipitously, but is I identify coaches. And what we had in 311 is once again, we had all these different users, and some of them are going to accept things readily, and other ones are going to kind of fight it. And typically, you're going to look to the supervisors to make sure that they're coaching their people. But to some extent, the individual agents were reluctant in some cases to ask their supervisors, particularly as time went by, for help because they didn't want to admit that they didn't know how to do something. So what we had is we identified coaches, and these guys, we had two of them out there who were very comfortable with technology. They're gamers, and they understood the system in depth. And because they were coworkers, it was easy for the different agents to go to those coworkers and ask them for help. And also, whenever we identified problems, rather than having supervisors go and coach those people, because that can be somewhat intimidating, we would ask the coaches to get with these folks for a short coaching session. I think that paid us great dividends, so that's certainly something we'd do again. So I'll be followed by Don Stickney of Minneapolis.
Thanks, Frank. That's great advice. Sometimes we tend to forget how big of a deal a new major system implementation is and how we can be more successful. One of the things that we're seeing in the maturity of 311 is the fact that many of those 311 organizations will be facing a upgrade or a change out of their CRM systems or many of their telephony systems in the future. So that's some great advice. One of the things I wanted to talk about today, and by the way, greetings to everybody from the city of Minneapolis, I wanted to talk about our session that's coming up in Dallas, and that is we're going to be digging into the comparative survey that we did last year and then looking to how we can improve that tool. I was really happy to see when we did our webinar there, the attendance that came to that webinar and the follow-up questions and calls that came to me afterwards about people, and seeing the huge amount of value that comparative survey provided for everybody. As people were talking about developing their 2012 budgets and into the future and their business plans, a lot of those 39 participants were able to pull data from that information and say, this is where the industry is going, this is how we compare with other cities, and that's truly the value of that comparative survey. So I appreciate that, everybody's interest in that. And as we look to the new year, there's, and as we sit down, how can we use that data even more effectively? One thing I did find out is there was so much data and so little time to really dig into that data, and that's what the session is going to be about. We're going to take some time to dig into some of those details so that you can bring back to your organization some of the things that maybe you didn't see there before that can help you as you're starting to set out your business plans, maybe your technology plans, your personnel plans, where you're going from a pay and compensation perspective. So really looking at some of that data in a more definite way and being able to network in a two-way conversation during this session. Then sharing some of the details. What's the story behind the data that we don't always get a chance to talk about? So participants at the conference will be able to talk about, this is truly what's behind this data, and this is some of the movement that we're seeing with the data, and how maybe other 311s can use some of that data to help set some of their directions. Then, of course, we always get questions from just about everybody in every organization, from your council members down to your city coordinator or your city manager, other department heads saying, how do we really compare? What do we compare against? What are our key performance indicators? And how do we compare on those? What's our cost per contact? And why is the city of Minneapolis so high and another city is so low, and those kind of things? So really being able to have that comparative analysis. I have to tell you that we have Results Minneapolis here, and that's like a city stat program. And I use so much information out of that comparative survey to help council members, the city coordinator, and the mayor understand where do we sit today and maybe where should we go for the future. So we're going to talk about how do we use that data, how do we use it effectively in a way that we've never thought of before, and then identifying some best practices. I'll be very honest with you, I would expect that out of this session that you'll be able to take away 1, 2, or 3 best practice ideas that you can take back to your organization the very next week and look at implementing. And that's really the true value of a survey like this. Then we're going to talk about some planning for the next survey. What questions did we ask? One of the questions we asked in the survey is about doing a technology survey. What are the questions we should ask in that survey, and how do we make that move ahead even more effectively than we did before? How do we get the information out? How do we make the survey work easier? And then finally, as any good 311 organization would do, we're going to take a look at making the process easier to use. Currently, we're using SurveyMonkey, but is there a better way? And so many people have been involved with surveys and survey methodologies. Is there a better way to make this more intuitive? Is there a way to make it more automated and put that all together? So that's kind of what the survey or the session is going to be about on Sunday afternoon when you get down to Dallas. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you and working with you as we look at putting that survey together for the new year. Following up on from me is Eva, and Eva's going to go over some of the information that she's going to be sharing with us. Eva?
Thanks, Don. I'm very excited about our upcoming conference and the opportunity to present on customer service across multiple industries. As Rose stated, I was the former Director of 311 with the City of Dallas. I am now the Director of Customer Service Administration with the D.C. Office of Tax and Revenue. This topic that I'll be presenting on is a very relevant topic because today the most common type of conversation across multiple industries is customer service. And whether you are a consumer or a service provider, you are impacted by how well that service is delivered. Many organizations are mirror images of one another with regards to online offerings, automated voice response systems, and even face-to-face interactions. But as we all know, doing something because everyone else is doing it doesn't make it smart, nor does it make it good. So how do you identify best practices in customer service regardless of your industry? Those are some of the things we'll be talking about. All contact center reps need a full view of customer activity. Gone are the days when a customer is willing to call more than one number or talk to more than one person. If your customer has to tell their story or request the same service more than once, you will get an automatic entry into the Customer Service Hall of Shame. We know ourselves with even our own personal experiences that we really want to call that one person to take care of most of our needs. And whether you're in government organizations, financial services, retail services, telecommunications, healthcare, any of those industries, your customers expect intelligent and accurate information. So how can you be confident, though, that all of your contact center reps are providing the level of service that assures customer satisfaction and beyond? In order to provide a universal view of customer information, organizations must deploy knowledge-powered central databases. This helps to integrate information and processes from functional divisions of an organization, leading to enhanced customer relationship management. So I'm very excited about some of our vendors who will be there to talk about some of the CRM systems that we use today. No doubt many of you have seen the Oldsmobile commercial with the popular tagline, "This is not your father's Oldsmobile." Well, the same can be said of today's multi-channel contact center. This is not your father's call center. Migrating to a multi-channel contact center is considered key to customer retention and loyalty. And even in the public sector, when we talk about customer retention and loyalty, you know, there may be those who say, well, they can only get city services from our city. But think about the impact you have on people's decisions to move to those cities or to move out of those cities and move to neighboring towns or states based on the level of service that we have or have not provided. Social networking sites, which are all the rage today, as you all know, now they can be your friend or your foe. Sites like Facebook, Twitter, SeeClickFix, various blogs, wikis, message boards, and even YouTube can inform and assist in serving your customer, but they can also serve as a forum for customers to air complaints about bad customer service experiences. As I stated earlier, I have relocated here to the DC area, so you can imagine I've had to use a number of customer service organizations, whether I'm leasing an apartment or getting service, cable service, and I can tell you I have had some customer service nightmares. Those are not the things that you want your customers to say about you. Today's customer is more educated and savvy than just a decade ago. The expectations are higher than ever. If a customer can access their bank account 24/7, get healthcare information online or via text and email, use smartphone apps to make dinner reservations or rent a car, connect with a loved one in another country, then the expectation is that those same communications channels should be available when they want to check the status of their tax refund, report a pothole or missed garbage pickup, or get information about where and when the next town hall meeting will be held. This session will provide the tools you need to deliver outstanding customer service no matter the industry. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you there. Tell your coworkers, your friends, your colleagues, and I will see you all in Dallas. Our next speaker is Corey Fleming with ICMA.
Okay. Back in 2006, the International City-County Management Association, ICMA, received funding from the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, and it was the start of a 5-year study on a national study on 311 and customer service technology. In Dallas, I'll be talking about the results of the final 2 projects that we did underneath that study. The first piece we'll be looking at is 311 and CRM data being used for re-engineering business processes at the local government level. 311 and CRM systems generate a tremendous amount of business intelligence, and tapping into that new data and information is a key source for re-engineering the business processes at our local government levels. This map shows you the 3 case studies that we'll be discussing, which include Indianapolis, Knoxville, Tennessee, and then the city and county of San Francisco. The second project I'll be reporting on at the Dallas Center is looking at 311 systems and measuring citizen satisfaction. Intuitively, we all understand that once you implement a 311 CRM system, the level of customer service for the local government should improve. But in looking at existing research that's available, data and information, we have some interesting findings for you that we'll talk about at the Dallas Center. One of the other things that I would like to do while we're all in Dallas is I'd like to talk to all of you about future 311 CRM research needs for the industry. I've jotted down a few ideas there that I think we maybe want to explore more, and I'd like to talk to people about what's needed out in the field, as well as where should we go for assistance to fund the research. So that's what I will be talking about, and now I'll turn it over to Andy.
Thanks, Corey. I think one thing that's great about the Synergy Group in particular is that we have the chance to have both seasoned veterans who are in the redo mode. I think we fall in that category. Frank is going to be talking a lot about what was working really well in his previous CRM and why he made the choices he did to go to the CRM system that he went to, and you kind of got an idea of some of the pitfalls and successes along the way. So the Synergy Group gives both the experienced and the youngster in 311 a great chance to really learn about what's going on, and it's what makes the thing so exciting. What I'll be talking about is, again, another one of these redo type of opportunities. I'll use the word opportunities. We have a knowledge base that draws from a lot of data on the city websites. I'm sure a lot of people are in the same situation as we in 311s really don't own any unique data of our own. All the data comes from the city departments. And in San Francisco, that makes up over 150 different websites that theoretically we can look at on a daily basis and know what's out there. And so that's kind of our struggle of how do we best do that. I mean, Frank's presentation showed a large number of phone calls. Knowledge answers are less than 10% of what we do in San Francisco, but it still equates to over 170,000 calls in a year. For instance, for public health, that screen on the upper right-hand side, we answered over 25,000 public health questions during 2011. So how do we do that? How do we get the best information so that we know we have the right answer for the caller every single time? What we did, and it's done a pretty good job for us up to now, is we went ahead and we created this validated FAQ. So you can see in the one picture that we've got information about the answer, how do you get a dog license, what's the fee schedule, and then we talk about who owns that information, what their hours are. What we try and do is give all the information that a customer service rep would need to know right away. We work with departments to make this information available, and both the customer service reps and the department, and not to mention the public, likes the fact that everything can be available at their fingertips in one easy screen when you're looking at it. So while this is really, really good, what it also winds up being is unsustainable. When you take a look at having 150 websites with currently we have about 7,000 of these FAQs that we need to monitor. So you can imagine going through when a department website changes, when they add a page, when they've changed a bit of information on it. We have to go in as an agency and update each individual little knowledge article. And so what we're going to talk about here at the Synergy Group is how do we go forward? How do we turn it from being this unsustainable, unmanageable manual process to something that's more automated? And I think it's going to be an exciting process, and what's even more exciting about it is I'm only halfway through it, so you'll get to find out how it winds up, because even I can't tell you that right now. So come and join us. It's going to be an exciting discussion, and I think especially in the case of knowledge, which is so critical to everything that all of us do, you'll get a really, really good walkthrough of what's going on. And I believe it next goes over to Mike. Is that right?
Yes, thank you, Andy.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. We at AT&T and Oracle look forward to joining you in April and early May at the Synergy Conference. Our session is going to cover some new stuff that's out there in the local government arena, where we will be talking about 311 and CRM as software as a service. We will also cover some 311 trends that we are seeing, mobility 311 being one of those. We'll also cover some information regarding what is the return on investment when and if you decide to look at a software as a service model. We also will be bringing with us Opus Group to perform a case study for Montgomery County, Maryland. If you recall, Montgomery County, Maryland has been awarded a couple of national awards for their 311 implementation. For more specifics on our session, I'd like to turn it over to Todd Winkle with AT&T.
Good morning, everybody. This is Todd Winkle with AT&T, and glad you all are made the call, and I look forward to meeting every one of you when we're in Dallas-Fort Worth for the conference here coming up. Like Mike said, we are going to be talking about the items that are listed on this slide here on the screen. But what AT&T has seen in the market is that across 22 different states that we're actually the local exchange carrier, and whether it's us or another local exchange carrier, that any municipality that's having to go through implementing 311 is having to do it in pieces, whether they're doing the network translation to get the calls there, having to deal with their contact center with any consolidation, any upgrades that they need to deal with network, managing that call center, deciding what CRM they're going to put in place, whether it's going to be on-prem, whether it's going to be in the cloud as software as a service, as Mike had talked about, and then managing that, taking that CRM and doing the implementation and the integrations with all your back office systems, whether they are old and end of life and need to be replaced, or you've just invested some money and just need to integrate with them. And then even taking it a step further and allowing your constituents and even the city employees that are doing some of the field service work to be able to have access to the CRM via the mobile platform, no matter what platform that is, whether it's what the carrier is, whether it's an AT&T, Verizon, whoever the vendor may be, and whether the platform is iOS, be an iPhone, Android, Windows Mobile. Some municipalities are actually going out and creating apps for each one of those different platforms. Well, there's new technology that's out there that's allowing you to integrate and push out your CRM to the public, only the information that you want them to have, and it does not matter what that platform is. So we're going to be talking about all those different pieces and how we can bring them together into a single solution, from when the constituent takes the phone off the hook to dial the phone, whether it's a landline or a mobile device, all the way through the contact center and into the mobile device, being able to push those applications out to the field, and even making your 311 implementation even more efficient by utilizing mobile technology. Through, for example, you have your streets and drainage department. A lot of the municipalities out there, those pothole filling trucks, they pick up a list in the morning, go out to lunch, fill in potholes, come back at lunch, get another list, and then go back out. If you start implementing tracking capabilities through asset tracking and mobile resource management tools, when the support request ends up in the streets and drainage department, that foreman can actually see where his nearest truck is to a constituent's report of a pothole. So if a constituent just called in for an issue at 1st and 2nd Street, that foreman can see that there is a truck a block away and send that vehicle on over to that pothole and fill it, just as an example, saving time, energy, resources, gas, and increasing the service level agreements that they basically are putting out to their constituents and giving them a lot more and a lot better customer service. And that's just one example of what can be done with mobile applications and pushing your solution out to your constituents through the mobile platform. So we'll be touching on all that, and then as Mike mentioned, return on investment, how we can help with that through cloud implementations and mobile applications, and then also the case study with Montgomery County. So we look forward to seeing you guys, and see you then. And I believe I'm turning it over to Steve Carter. There you go, Steve.
Thanks, Todd.
You're welcome.
one of the things that I'm going to be covering at the Synergy Group session is to discuss how social media is being looked at with 311 in combination. And obviously there's mobile applications that are out there and doing things with that, but we really want to talk about the Open 311 product and some of the ways it's extended what 311 can do with applications like Facebook and others like that, Twitter applications, but also some of the things that we're going to move beyond that, because not just when they're communicating directly with you, but also looking at social as a way to do some social listening and response management. So applications are out there like San Francisco, who's developed a Facebook web page, you know, where citizens can go out and report problems and do things that way using Open 311. And that's one way to look at it. But one of the things that I'll be covering in there is that it really is pushing the fact that in addition to just, you know, making it simple to make service requests, a lot of cities are doing multi-channel listening, and you need to manage the engagement. So the fact that there's something being posted on a Facebook page, how do you manage the response to that? So we look at, you know, the worldwide, the social media sites, such as Facebook and other places. Open 311 is a way to support that. But we also need to look at, there are forums, discussions, blogs that are out there, along with all the other text and structured information that 311 may want to monitor. And when you look at, as Andy discussed, the fact that there's varieties of websites from different departments may have different Facebook pages. You've got elected officials doing Twitter. The ability to manage and listen across all those channels to make sure the message is uniform and concise is a challenge. And one of the things I'll be talking about is a process called social listening and response, which is in addition to what you do at 311 on the phone or what you're doing through Open 311 with mobile and smartphone applications, that you could also do a lot of other things to take advantage of some new tools out there to listen to what's being said, analyze that content, and then bring it, you know, to highlight it and bring it to a dashboard concept where you can choose where you want to engage, where you may actually view it as, you know, somebody writing on a blog post might be viewed as, you know what, they're actually making a complaint. Let's respond to them, let them know how they can communicate directly with us so we can alert departments of the issue. But it's one of the things you can do to kind of add to the fact that you're broadening what you're listening to. It's not just the people that call you, but it's the comments being made. Newspaper websites are, and we've got some customers that have found that citizens may be talking about their city on travel sites and TripAdvisor and places like that, where they're commenting on how safe they felt or how clean the area was or whatever it might be. And typically 311 may not be aware of that kind of communication. But the process of responding to, where opposed to a Facebook page, helping solve a problem or giving someone an information or giving them a link to something on the website for you know, a link to some knowledge or information or schedules or whatever it might be, the fact that you do that, you track that as an interaction. So it's broadening the kind of the concept of, so listening and response isn't just via phone, but it can be via all the social media channels, and that you then track, you know, how we're responding and touching citizens through all those channels. So we'll kind of go beyond a little bit about the way the call center and the technology being used today in CRM is kind of being expanded to talk about some of those other types of things. And a lot of the benefits it brings to the contact center, the way you can look at, you know, these are, again, ways to help offload some of the challenges that Frank spoke about, where in some cases everyone's dealing with reduced budgets or reduced staff in call center. How can we take smart technology, mobile technology, social media, and, you know, get some reduced manpower and decrease time to respond? But from the public communications point of view, also message consistency. If corporate communications is trying to make sure, you know, we want to manage what we say via social media or who can say it and track what was said and where it was posted. Again, that's a nice thing to be able to do it in one location, not have to worry about going to all the different media sites and having agents or staff members or interns or whoever is trying to free text author what to say. They can actually use context and information in the knowledge systems, track the response as part of a case management process, and post those results right back to that native media, back on Facebook or out through Twitter, however they may want to respond. And part of this gives you the sentiment of what citizens are saying so that you can kind of gauge policy You can also look at not only can we tell you, how many people are calling 311 to complain about potholes, but we can tell you overall what do people think about street conditions, and that involves multiple things. But it's not just the ones calling you, it's what are they saying on the other sites as well. And then the service departments, the ability to know what's being said across the city, what's the information being given out there, and then what are the benchmarks for service delivery and what's the public view of those things. And you heard Corey mention some of the citizen satisfaction and the stuff Don mentioned he was going to get to in the survey. So it ought to be a really good session to discuss a lot of that and talk about really how we can best use some of these new tools to help gauge public opinion on service delivery. So exciting to be there. Conda's glad to sponsor, and we look forward to seeing you all in Dallas. With that, I'll hand it back to Rose.
Thanks so much, Steve. We appreciate the participation of all of our speakers today, and we so look forward to their presentations at the 311 Synergy Group in April and May. You have a look here at our very robust agenda. We are working every week to build it out and get more exciting opportunities, and we're working on the Industry Partners Recognition event. We have a great networking event on Monday evening which highlights our sponsors, and also it's a really fun time for our participants. And when I worked in your industry and I went to industry meetings, I was always able to take away ideas that more than paid for the cost of my trip. And I think Don alluded to that, about the ideas that you'll take away from the meeting in general and specifically with his comparative study. That is always such a highlight. And so I look forward to seeing you. There will be an opportunity for you to share these slides and also a copy of the audio, and that will be posted at the 311 Synergy Group website and also at the 311 Synergy Group site on LinkedIn. Also, for those of you that registered when you viewed the broadcast message about this webinar, it also gave you instructions about how to register for the meeting. And if you need any help with that, if you'll reach out, we'll be happy to help you navigate through that process. The cost to attend the 311 Synergy Group meeting is nothing. It is free. And in addition, you have the opportunity to register for CS Week and have 3 more days of conferencing that provide great customer contact information. So look forward to seeing you at the meeting. We look forward to sharing more information with you. This is the 7th year that the 311 Synergy Group is meeting 1 to 2 times a year, hosting these webinars and providing a great networking opportunity for all of you. So thanks again, and this concludes our webinar.